Well, it feels like it just got started, but it is over. The 2022 NTT IndyCar Series season. It went by in a flash, and here we are at the end of the road for 2022. Now, I have to say, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca exceeded my expectations. Just a beautiful facility. I mean, just look at this. This is about halfway up the hill to the corkscrew, and this is where I stood for the race. And actually off to this side, to my right, you can see most of the course. What a great track to be a spectator and to watch an IndyCar race. Should it be the championship finale? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But obviously, this was, for all intents and purposes, an extremely historic weekend. We went into this race with 5 drivers eligible to win the championship. Really had 3 realistic possibilities, but Will Power rose above the rest. He set and broke Mario Andretti's official pole position IndyCar record yesterday and went on, spoiler alert, to win the championship today. So let's take a look at the final result page for the final race of this year, the Firestone Grand Prix here at Monterey. And it was Alex Palou with a brilliant drive. We will be talking about him later. Naturally, Alex Palou still a huge story in this championship, or of this championship season. Joseph Newgarden, we're going to have to talk about him in detail too. After the spin yesterday, which for all intents and purposes threw the championship out the window, Newgarden tried everything he possibly could have. Starting from the back of the field, he got to second. William Power, he did it. What he told us earlier in the week, I have to finish third, he did that. Car number 12 will be, I presume, car number 1 next year. At least it was when he won the championship in 2014, rolling over to 2015. Felix Rosenqvist. Great strategy from the Aero McLaren SP boys there. Have to say, it looked like starting on the black tires was the way to go. That was the move. Palou did it. Newgarden did it. Rosenqvist did it. Christian Lundgaard wins the Rookie of the Year championship for IndyCar with a 5th place finish. Fantastic result for Rahal. They struggled throughout the year. Finally started to put it together towards the end of the season. They're rolling in, looking a bit stronger going into 2023. Scotty McLaughlin had an outside chance at the championship. Ultimately, he finished 6th. He did start on the blacks as well. Romain Grosjean concludes what can only be described as a disappointing first season at Andretti Autosport after looking like he was going to light the world on fire at Dale Coyne last year. Pato O'Ward also disappointed today, as was Marcus Ericsson, who hit everything but the pace car, it seemed like, in the last few laps of the race. Alexander Rossi concludes his time at Andretti Autosport with a 10th place finish. The shocker of all shockers, it seems, is Colton Herta, 11th place, had a poor qualifying. Car didn't look like he could keep the tires on it. Is this his final IndyCar race? Well, that question is yet to be answered, and surely we'll be answering it over the course of the next 6 months between races. Scott Dixon, again, another driver with a pretty good chance of the championship going into today. Really got screwed by the yellow, which we will talk about later in this video. David Malukas, who maybe in a lot of people's minds was the Rookie of the Year this year as well, finished a lucky 13th, but he's looking so strong going into next year. It seems as though HMD and Dale Coyne is going to try to retain Malukas' services for next year. Rinus VeeKay, 14th. It's a rebuilding year for Ed Carpenter Racing. They're going to be doing a lot of work in the offseason to get that car back up to snuff. Devlin DeFrancesco re-signed with Andretti Autosport, so he'll be back at that team next year. Jimmy Johnson, 16th, legitimately. I think this was one of Jimmy's best road course performances easily, because look at the names he's faster than. Simon Pagenaud in 17th, who was getting a run on Jimmy on the last lap, couldn't quite get him. Graham Rahal in 18th. Helio Castroneves in 19th, Jack Harvey in 20th. We go on to Kyle Kirkwood, who will move on to the 27 car at Andretti Autosport next year. Simona Di Silvestro, who's looking but not quite got it yet at a full-time season with Beretta Autosport next year, along with Ed Carpenter Racing. Takuma Sato, there are all of a sudden rumors about his future. Is he going to retire? Again, we'll find that out in the next 6 months. Connor Daly, disappointing 24th. Ditto for Dalton Kellett, 25th. but not as disappointing as Callum Ilott, who had a front row starting position, but the car didn't last. 26th and last for Juncos Hollinger Racing in the final race of the year. So as you can imagine, I have a lot to talk about after this race because there were a lot of things that I feel need to be addressed. Number one is Alex Palou. What a statement from Alex Palou when all we have been talking about, I'm guilty of this, everyone's guilty of this, all we have been talking about is Alex Palou and his damn contract. But I'll tell you what, Alex Palou, I've said a few things. I've worried that Alex Palou kind of hurt his career, and I still think he probably did. But if you're going to win races by 30 seconds, someone in a top team is going to take you. And what I found extremely interesting is that all of a sudden, especially with this result, there seems to be a bit of a chance that Alex Palou will drive for Chip Ganassi Racing in next year's IndyCar Series. Who had that on their bingo card? Who would have possibly thought that that would even be a remote possibility after what happened in early July? But I have to tell you that Alex Palou doing this made him worth a hell of a lot to whatever team, whether it's McLaren or Chip Ganassi, gets him. What's the question worth? Well, it's about $10 million, according to Townsend Bell on NBC, the buyout that Chip Ganassi would require from McLaren for Palou's services. Will Zach Brown be willing to pay that? He told Jenna Fryer of the AP that he would be willing to buy out his contract. Will he be willing to buy it out for $10 million? That remains to be seen. I'm beginning to lean towards Alex Palou driving for Chip Ganassi Racing next year. Again, nice 6-month long offseason. We're going to have to talk about all this stuff. Joseph Newgarden, like I said, he did virtually everything he needed to do today to win the race. Of course, he was not nearly as fast as Alex Palou, but you cannot catch a driver who's 30 seconds faster when you start 25th. And unfortunately, when he spun out in the corkscrew, that robbed him of an opportunity to win the championship. And like I said in yesterday's video, they chose to start on the black wall tires, and that ultimately was the correct choice. 4 of the top 5 drivers started on the black tires in the race. So Joseph Newgarden and Tim Cindric, they once again prove that they are not dummies when it comes to strategy. Christian Lundgaard, Rookie of the Year. Now, a lot of people, I think, kind of just looked past Christian Lundgaard, including myself, throughout this season. But he's been the most consistent rookie out of all of them, including David Malukas. And in a season in which we are talking so much about consistency, just wait till I get Will Power, it's fitting that the Rookie of the Year was the most consistent throughout the year. They're getting a Red Bull engineer at Rahal Letterman Lanigan for next year. That's an immense amount of talent that's coming to that team, and they've already kind of figured out where their pace was versus the beginning of the year. So let's add an all-star engineer and a Christian Lundgaard who's clearly emerging as a great driver in this series. Rahal and their team may be a true threat next year. Will Power, deserving champion. I don't think there's anyone who's going to dispute that Will Power deserved to win this championship. He only had one win, but his one win was that spectacular victory in Detroit. Yeah, sure, he Matt Kenseth it. Was he like Joseph Newgarden winning every other race? No. Was he Marcus Ericsson? Did he win the biggest race? No. Did it matter at the end of the day? No. Will Power was fast, he was consistent, he was smart, he didn't make mistakes. And in a championship in which you have such a variety of circuits, a variety of different challenges, this is exactly the type of champion you want to have in the series. And for my money, Will Power was the best driver this year. He proved it time and time again, and he proved it today. He did exactly what he needed to do, finished third, and won the championship. Now, what's interesting is when he was in the press conference, we've known for a while, kind of behind the scenes, that Will Power has 1 year on his remaining Team Penske contract. He was asked about an extension. He kind of he indicated, hey, I think I've done enough for an extension. But there have been so many rumors about what Team Penske might be doing in 2024, and they were still rampant within the paddock. Do we know 100% that Will Power is going to be driving for Penske beyond the end of next year? No. But if Will Power continues to drive like this and he continues to be willing to race for Team Penske, I don't see why you would split that up, because it's just the best. The yellow today, Callum Ilott, when he broke down right at the pit exit. IndyCar did the thing again. Now, they've been consistent on this, so I have to give them credit, but I think the rule is crap. If something is dangerous enough to throw a yellow, throw the yellow and let the chips fall where they may. This was the same thing that happened at Indianapolis for the second GP race. You had maybe an interesting strategy race developing, and then all of a sudden you throw a yellow in the middle of a pit sequence, let everybody pit, or don't throw a yellow in the middle of a pit sequence, let everybody pit, and then you essentially get everybody on the same strategy, and it's kind of a boring race because, again, the field is so close. Everybody has virtually the same thing, though they obviously don't totally have the same thing. They have enough of the same thing that it's not going to make a whole lot of passing. You need help from Firestone and a few other factors to get the passing and the entertainment that we want. And we don't get that when you throw yellows in the middle of the pit sequence and everybody decides to go on the best strategy. That's my opinion. Finally, should Laguna Seca host the championship? It's something Kyle, my camera guy, and I discussed at Gateway. No, it should not. This should not be the championship race. Now, I want to be very, very, very clear that I think this race track absolutely deserves a race on this championship trail. It absolutely deserves to be in a prominent place, and it absolutely deserves IndyCar's full attention to continue to foster this event and help it grow. Should this be the championship finale? Hell no. My opinion, this race should be in that big gap between whichever race is ahead of Long Beach. Isn't it Texas? Yeah, put this race in early April. Maybe it'll be too cold around here. Again, I don't know Northern California very well, but I feel like CART ran around this time or in April in Laguna Seca, and they didn't have any problem. I know IMSA runs in May, and I don't think they ever have any temperature problems. So I would say move this a little bit earlier in the year, try to get some of those gaps out of the early part of the championship. And then you have to, I think, because I think the big problem here is your fan base isn't here, and I'm wearing an NFL jersey at an IndyCar race, and the reason for that is the NFL season just started. You shouldn't be racing on the NFL opener. Maybe race on week 2. I'm not saying totally avoid the NFL, but you probably should avoid at least week 1, opening kickoff for most people's teams, especially avoid the Colts. I feel like that's obvious. The final thing I would say is I think because of that fan base being so Midwestern, I feel like you have to have a race finish the championship in the Midwest. Is that Gateway? Is that Mid-Ohio? Is that the Indianapolis Road Course? How about Michigan? I've said that before. You know, it doesn't get that cold in Michigan in September. I'm just saying, a 500-mile oval race would be the best way to differentiate your championship from Formula One. Hey, let's tie that talking point into the end of this season from the beginning of the weekend. I don't know. At the same time, I thought today's race was entertaining. I thought that the champion was deserving. I think the fact that Alex Palou won this in the way that he did gives us a hell of a lot to talk about in the off-season. And I'm looking forward to bringing you that off-season content. Now, I'm still planning on doing a few more race events throughout the year, most notably Petit Le Mans for IMSA. But as you guys know, throughout the off-season, I do the testing videos. I go to like Sebring and whatchamacallit, wherever they're running. Barber, there we go. There's the other one. I try to do testing. And obviously, we get to talk about Kyle Busch, I think, this week. I think he's going to sign for RCR. So we'll get to talk about that. A lot of racing coverage to go. But finally, I'd just like to thank everybody who subscribed and watched the IndyCar content this year. And I would like to thank all those people in that paddock right there. Because, you're never going to have 100% of the people like you, right? But I have to say that the people in the IndyCar paddock are so good to me and so good to you guys that I just want to give them a shout out because they have treated me with such legitimacy this year. It's been amazing. I thought the camera was running out there. I've got 30 seconds. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content because there's a lot coming, and I'll see you in the next